Okay. Welcome to the Community Preservation Committee meeting held at One Government Center, City Council Hearing Room. It's Thursday, February 8th, 6 o'clock. You can view the meeting through Forward TV, Facebook, or live stream. Pursuant to the open meeting laws, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit this meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and deemed acknowledged and permissible. We'll start with roll call. We'll start on Zoom.
Sorry, Joanne Bentley present.
Alexander Silva present.
Kristen Cantara Olivera present.
John Brandt present.
Rick Mancini, present.
Alrighty. Any citizen input? Okay.
Yeah, well, you're gonna say we're missing Victor and
Oh, so yeah, sorry that. Also present with us tonight is Sandy Dennis, our administrative assistant, Craig from Forward TV, and we're missing a mayor appointee, a city council appointee, and a planning board appointee. And Victor Ferris from the park department is absent tonight. Alrighty. No citizen input? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the, we didn't do the meeting, minutes we don't have for.
I had some edits. I don't know if everyone else had a chance to look at them. If you want me to go through them, it's just some typos for names. Do you want me to go through them?
You want to just table till approve them on next meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to table the minutes until our next meeting on Monday.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, roll call vote. Zoom
Joanne
first.
Bentley, yes.
Alexander Silva, yes.
Kristen Cantara Olivera, yes.
John Brandt, yes.
Rick Mancini, yes.
Okay, on to the funding round. First project up is Christ the Rock Church, tower repair and repointing, $500,000, Rock Street.
So Mike Keene, Civitex Architects.
Robert Canavan, Christ the Rock Church.
So we are back before you for the funding round with our application, which has been updated since the initial application, and requesting $500,000 for the stabilization and repointing of the bell tower of the church. We have a structural engineer under contract, or the church has a structural engineer under contract. They have retained us as well. That's being funded separately from this funding request. So the engineer and architect are not being part of this funding request. They're looking for funding for the project itself, the restoration work itself. So we had reached out to several masonry contractors. Unfortunately, we're not getting many responses. There is a number in here, a quote from a masonry contractor. I'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the second masons that we had reached out to said that they were interested in the project. And it's someone that we worked with on and off for the last 20 or so years, and they are qualified in historic masonry, but they, after several times of trying to reach out to them, they were not taking on the project or interested in taking on the project. So the one that we do have a quote for has looked at the building, looked at the structure several times, is a highly qualified mason, someone that we've also done work with over the last 20 to 25 years, and this mason has done quite a bit of work for Whale and New Bedford, going back to the 1980s. So he's a very qualified mason in historic masonry. So he has been to the site, as I mentioned, several times, and we've walked it with him. There is quite a bit of work that needs to be done in this bell tower. And so what the main areas of concern are specifically the east elevation, which is the elevation that faces Rock Street. and also the south elevation, which is the elevation that runs along Walnut Street. Those are the two sides that are in most need of repair. There's been significant water infiltration into that bell tower, which has led to the deterioration of the backup masonry, which is a brick masonry behind that stone veneer that you see from the exterior. So what we're proposing in conjunction with this mason is to focus on a phase one restoration, which would be the restoration of the east elevation, which is again along Rock Street. And so the proposed work for that would be the $500,000. His estimate to do both elevations came in at around 750 to I think 950. That number is in the packet that you've got. I want to say probably between 30 to 40% of that cost alone is just in getting access to that tower. You know, as you probably read what he put together, he's proposing an aerial lift before he can even set up some staging there. So it's a pretty substantial cost for anything you'd have to do for scaffolding and staging. We're finding that, of course, industry-wide, it's a large number. So that is essentially what we're proposing or requesting, really, from the committee to start at least this phase one project.
So, without actually having the bids with the actual breakdown, you're saying 750 to 950 for one side?
No, that'll be for both elevations. That'll be the Rock Street elevation, the east elevation, and the south elevation, which would be along Walnut Street. Those two which are in the most need of restoration. So it's hard to give, for a project like this, a definitive final number, because once you start to get into it, I think you're gonna find that there's a lot more in terms of issues. You know, there's some work through no fault of the church over many years where they've taken that, I call it Band-Aid approaches to trying to stop the water infiltration by caulking the masonry joints and doing work that essentially would have to be undone. So while that might have been an appropriate, I won't say appropriate, but an attempt to do a temporary repair, needs to be reversed. So that's part of this project as well. So.
Especially this year when we're, really don't have the funds because the state didn't pass down additional funding. So we're only looking like 1.1 for the entire, our cycle.
Understood.
So without being even able to break it down, let's say one side, what it would be, it's tough for
One
us.
side with the 500,000, which would be the east elevation. So if we were to ask you for the full request, which would really be for the south elevation, the east elevation, you're looking at the 750 to 900, which is not something we're requesting right now because it's knowing what your funding is. So having discussed this further with a mason, it is possible that we could take this on to the greatest extent that we could, whatever funds are available.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't mean that we would be able to do the entire elevation on the east side. So it's possible we could do it for less than that, but once he gets to a stopping point, you know, we'd have to be looking at doing future work to continue. So,
Okay.
so and part of what we would do is we would monitor that. We would, for lack of a better word, police that in terms of managing how much time that mason is putting in and the funds that are allocated for it. So I think we'd have to come up with a plan for that. But that was part of what we wanted to talk through, you know, talking with Pastor Rob, that, you know, if there is a way to accept a lesser value, that could be possible. There's work that could definitely still be done on that elevation.
Okay. All right. Now, the ownership of the church is
It's owned by the church, by the membership of the church.
Okay, I thought that was,
Yes.
okay. All righty, I'll open it up. Joanne, do you have any questions?
Excuse me, I think Mike actually answered my question, and it was if, you know, because of our funding this year, if we were only able to partially fund it, could you partially repair one of the facades and then, stop at that point and pick it up in next year or in the future. But I think you answered that, and the answer is yes, you could.
Right. So, and I think, I know also, we could get up to a certain point without having to bring in that aerial lift. And maybe it's a case of we do the south and the east elevations, right, up to a certain point, and not incur that cost. The lift is going to be a significant expense. Having to come back and remobilize at a later date, now you're just adding on to the cost, substantially. So it could be a case where we do, 2 elevations and maybe even, the west elevation without the lift, but just to get it up to as far as we can, and look at, in the future, just continuing it, beyond that. So,
Okay.
so it is possible.
All right. Alex, anything?
You answered my questions about the differences with the estimates for the masonry, so thanks for that. I think I heard your answer in your presentation. So the plans for phase 2, that was kind of, as mentioned in the application, it seems like it just kind of morphed before my very eyes almost. So in your professional opinion, I guess I would ask, what kind of value would there be into going up to the elevation without needing the lift from a structural standpoint, I guess?
Well, I'd let the structural engineer speak to that. So I know that it would be possible getting it up to sort of that elevation, whatever we say that it's going to be. But I wouldn't let it go for too much longer beyond that, because the walls are bowing out. And, there is some deterioration that you see that's coming off in mortars, coming off the building. So there's a definite concern there. So.
And then could you just detail some of the types of community activities that the church is host to? I thought that was very insightful for the application. And then also kind of temper that answer with how the building and its stated deficiencies are affecting those operations, and how might this project improve your community service?
Well, I think the number one, thank you, good question, and I came prepared for that question. Thanks to Mike. It's our first time doing this type of, so I appreciate Sandy and everybody else's communication and helping us through this. I think the number one benefit to all these things I'll mention is safety, because I moved to the city about 7 years ago, and I know the church down the street was all roped off and caution taped up because their tower was going to fall or whatever. So I want to make sure it doesn't get to that point. Chuck lives next door, people live behind us. There was a church in New London, Connecticut that the thing fell in. It was a friend of mine's church, so that's pretty scary that those are the possibilities. So our church, I just took on lead pastor about a year ago. Prior to that, they really didn't put a little money into this, so we're trying to make up for lost time. We know this will take many years to do, so if we got 100,000 this year, we'd put 100,000 next year. We'll pray that you guys get $2 or $3, $4 million for the whole city, and you never know what can happen. But so safety is the number one thing, because we have homeless people coming in and out to stay warm, stay cool, to eat. We have a food pantry that we get food out pretty much all the time. We have a community art class where the senior citizens in the city can come out and get taught. And these are all non-religious activities. Just because we're a church doesn't mean we're proselytizing every single person. For me, I'm a Christian. I believe we're supposed to love everybody. So I love everybody that comes to our church. So we provide hygiene. We provide clothes, warm clothes. Go through my list. Warm and cooling center. When the city, we work with Mike Dion and the mayor as far as when there's a storm. We'll work in conjunction with the Tomeo Center. We'll open up. Sometimes the First Baptist Church, we'll do stuff with them too. We collect shoes, clothes. We clean them and then give them back to those in need. Shoes, hygiene, cleaning products. We just started this year with RPA, Resiliency Preparatory Academy, where we host a class where the students come up. They make bags of food to give to kids in the community, families that don't have food as well. There's a lot of people that fall through the cracks. So the new the new principal there, Kyle, I think, came up with this program with a couple of the teachers to teach them community pride. They come up, they make the bags, and we feed them lunch and stuff. So we do that on a regular basis as well. We also host a lot of community service. So the people that go to court, the kids that go to court and need a place to do community service, we have them come and hang out, and we do stuff with them as well. So we do stuff with the homeless, the addicted, the hurting, and sometimes those that are just lost in the city and need something. We try to help them in some way, shape, or form. So hopefully that answered some of your questions.
Yes.
All right.
Is the condition of the building prohibiting you from expanding your services? Like, is there spaces that you're not able to use
Yes.
because of the leaks and stuff?
That's a great question. Because it starts at the tower, comes all the way down into the basement of the church, and then we have a youth room in the basement. We call it kind of the dungeon area, that just all the water ends up down there. And this last couple storms, we had a couple inches. So that's where we wanted to do stuff for the RPA students, to teach them computers, audio engineering, stuff like that, because we have some equipment that we could use for that. So we have vision of what else we can do with the building, but we're kind of handicapped with that right now.
Just a couple more questions. I'll be
Absolutely.
quick. So how are all those initiatives funded that you kind of mentioned?
Self-funded pretty much from the church. For our food pantry, we've applied several times for the Boston Food Bank, but because we're a religious organization, they frown on that. So usually just donation. Shaw's gives us a lot of food. People in our church have a big heart. We probably have about 120 people between English and Portuguese, and they donate money so that we can do these type of initiatives. And the city has helped us too. Once in a while, Mike Dion will give us a check.
And do you have any numbers on maybe how many people you've helped this year, or like this past year, or anything like that?
That's a good question. I know we gave out almost 1,000 bags of food last year, because we just had an annual business meeting. I should have brought that with me. I know we've done that. We've done 52 transportations back and forth to people in need. I don't remember how many warming centers we did last year. So I know we've probably, between RPA and then the regular people, probably about 1,000 families a year we probably impact.
And then my last question, Mike, would it be possible to, as fast as you can, I guess, before Monday's deliberation meeting, or maybe in the week after, get a letter from the structural engineer kind of offering their opinion on the revamped plan starting from the ground up? Specifically, I wonder if the drippage would undo work that the grant would do, depending
Okay.
on funding timeline.
Right.
So if it would actually be advantageous to just do a single side to kind of minimize dripping and, affecting the mortar and stuff like that kind of all over again, I would just be curious, and I think it'd be valuable to know.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
Thanks. I'm all set.
Sure.
Okay. Chris, anything?
Yeah, so I know in the application it said you've applied and were denied a grant from the Old and Little Church Foundation, and you
Yes.
were looking for other funding sources. So what kind of sources are out there that you would be able to utilize? Just say we can't fund the whole thing, and it's something that, obviously you need for the building. So what are the other options for you?
So I applied for Grant Station, which is a place that's supposed to give you a lot of the people that are applying, accepting grants. A lot of them right away, because you're religious, they say no, which I understand. The other ones, we've applied for a few other ones, we just haven't heard back yet. So my hope is to continue to go through the booklet that Sandy gave us a couple meetings ago too, and just kind of blanket shotgun approach, try to apply to as many as we can, and hope for the best. But yeah, we do have money set aside, like Mike said. We're paying for his services out of the church pocket, the structural engineer. So we're not just trying to take money. We have skin in the game as well. We just don't have hundreds of thousands.
And so what's the amount of people more or less at your church?
English, we've been averaging 75 to 100 or 90. Portuguese is an older congregation, probably 40 or 50 people.
That's bigger than I thought.
Rick, anything?
No, actually, a lot of good questions, a lot of good
Yeah,
answers.
absolutely. I
I'm
appreciate the questions.
kind of set, thank you.
Yeah. That would be good, though, if you could get us that information, and, because we
Yeah.
deliberate on Monday, we don't vote, though, till March 17th, so
Okay.
whatever information you can give us
Sure.
to
Okay.
make it,
Thank you for that option.
Yeah.
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 Okay,
Okay.
thanks for the
Thank
presentation.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this yours or mine?
I have sticky notes. Oh, wait, is that?
I don't think that's mine.
Next is Corky Row, replace roof, front windows, and framing around the windows. $55,000. It's from 3rd Street, Fall River.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Brad Paul. I'm president of the Corky Row Club, and I have a PowerPoint. I think somebody in the room has to advance it. So I'll go to the second slide. I can't see it on the screen right now, so I'm not sure which slide you're on.
Brad, you're on the second slide.
Okay. So
Just
the club's
one second,
one
we
time-
have a problem with the
Oh,
screen.
hold on. Unplugging.
There we go.
All set, Brad.
Okay, so you're on the second slide. So the Corky Row Club has a long history in the city. It was established in 1936. It's listed on local, state, and national historic registers. Our St. Patrick's Day celebration is an old citywide tradition. Many of our club members served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and Iraq. And we are working closely with the Corky Row Neighborhood Association on projects in the neighborhood. And the repairs that this grant will allow us to do will really help us advance our programming and partnerships in the community. Next slide. Oh, I can see the slides now. Great. So this is a slide of our St. Patrick's Day dinner, which you're probably familiar with. It's probably the thing we're best known for. Many people don't know that until I think the late 1950s, it was a dinner and a parade. Next slide. This is a shot, I believe, from 1956. You can see the Corky Row members in very flashy coats, bowler hats, and canes. At the back is one of several floats that came down through the neighborhood as part of this parade. All the local politicians showed up, and when John F. Kennedy was running for the U.S. Senate, he was a member or walked in the parade as well. Next slide. The tradition continues, and we invite you to join us on Sunday, March 17th for this year's St. Patrick's Day dinner. Next slide. And I want to take a minute to tell you about my connection to both the Corky Row neighborhood and the club. It's on both sides of my family. On my dad's side, my grandfather, Pete, was a member of the club. My father, who grew up on 5th Street, and one of the tenements on 5th Street with his brother and sister, was a 2nd generation member. I'm a 3rd generation member, and my son, Alec, is now a 4th generation member from our family of the Corky Row Club. And he's not alone. There are quite a few 3rd and 4th generation members. On my mother's side, my mother, Lillian Paul, grew up on Hartwell Street. It's where she met my dad at Durfee High School. They dated. She was living there when they got married. And her father was Nick Fitton, who owned Fitton Movers, and he often sponsored sports teams in Corky Row. He would have his name, Fitton Movers, on the jacket. It would say Corky Row or Corky Row Club on it. Next slide. The club's connection to both Corky Row and Fall River veterans is quite deep. On the left, you see on the upper left is a slide of our annual Memorial Day event. It starts with a veterans breakfast at the club. Then we form up, and there's a parade down to Griffin Park with a police guard, a bagpiper, flags, and veterans. And at the park, there's a memorial service. And as you know, Griffin Park was actually named after Sergeant James T. Griffin. He was a Corky Row resident, also one of the people who died in World War II. I believe one of the first people that died. And on the right is a picture of Mayor Coogan speaking about, I think 2 years ago. He was announcing a new citywide council, Veterans Council, and grants for veterans totaling $100,000. And he chose to hold this press conference at the Corky Row Club. Next slide. As you already stated, our request is for $55,000 to replace the old leaking roof, to replace the front window and do some repair work on the frame and the wall that's been damaged around it, plus a 10% contingency. And this will completely seal the building and protect it for years going forward. Next slide. And what this will allow us to do, besides finish phase 1 of our building repairs, is implement our business plan, which will help us generate more revenue, and also grow our membership and volunteer base to partner with our neighborhood, other neighborhood groups, to do things like create more neighborhood cleanups. We'd love to do 3 or 4 a year and contribute money toward that. We'd like to provide scholarships to Corky Row residents going to BCC and UMass Dartmouth. We'd also like to fund sports teams, the youth sports teams in the neighborhood, like my grandfather used to do. We'd like to put up murals that celebrate the history, culture, and diversity of Corky Row and provide stipends to residents to fund tours, historic tours of the neighborhood, put on music events, and pay tutors to tutor the kids in the neighborhood. Next slide. One of our partners is the Corky Road Neighborhood Association. You see them here doing work in the park, doing street cleaning and neighborhood cleanups. They also hold their monthly meetings at the club and their annual Christmas party where they provide Christmas presents to the children in the neighborhood. Next slide. We're also joined today by the president of the St. Anne Shrine Preservation Society. You were kind enough a couple of years ago to give a grant to St. Anne's to replace their roof, and they're doing a great job. They're almost done with the first phase. I'll let him talk about that if he wants. The last slide I have is how does this work contribute to improving Fall River overall? And I talked about this in my application. Corky Row sits at the center of Fall River and the downtown, both geographically and historically. And in her book, Jane Jacobs' book, The Death and Life of Great American Cities, an award-winning book, she analyzed what made a neighborhood healthy, what made it resilient, what made it thrive. And she studied the North End in Boston. And her conclusion was that the more activity there was, the more merchants and residents were walking around the neighborhood, talking to each other, engaging with each other, the more eyes on the street, as she called it, the better the chance of a neighborhood and the city around that neighborhood thriving and feeling safe and encouraging other people to go there. So that's what we want to do with the work we're doing, is create a thriving Corky Row neighborhood, attract more people there, and also work with our partners to really make people feel like it's a place to go and do things. The downtown has a great restaurant scene, a great art scene. It has a lot of cultural activities going on. We want to contribute to that and grow that so people from the region come to Fall River to spend their money, spend their time, and improve the city. Last slide. I don't see a slide up, but basically I just wanted to let you know that we have 3 other speakers: Ray Haig, who's chair of the Corky Row Club Board, Mark Conrad, president of the Corky Row Neighborhood Association, and Bob Govan, president of the St. Anne Shrine Preservation Society. So I'll hand it off to Ray. I don't know if he's on Zoom or in person. And after that, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, I don't think Ray's here. Okay.
Yeah,
So, are you there, Ray?
Yeah, the only thing is, I apologize, I can't get the camera working for some reason on this, so I'm the iPad icon there. But some of you probably recognize your voice, so it is me. And good to see you all. I can see you. And Mr. Chairman, I'm here for the purpose of answering any historical questions, anything you'd like to know. I was born in the Corky Row in 1950. It's been part of my life for my whole life, and other members of the family. And we do have, like Brad Hall said, we have members that go back. It's probably 1942 is the oldest we can go back, but any questions that I could give you? I did hear about the Christmas parties. Yeah, they've been going on since 1936. There is an article you might want to read that I think is on Facebook, How Irish Was It? And it would tell the story of the melting pot of our country. We had Gus Valancourt that cut our hair. The first president of the club was James DePola, who lived across the street. We've had, way back as far as 1950s, we had Portuguese presidents. We had 3 Chinese restaurants in the neighborhood. We had the Iwanskis there that had the corner store. My grandfather had a corner store there and lost it in the Depression. So, I mean, that's why I'm participating. If you have any questions for the historical side, I'd be glad to answer them.
I'm Mark Conrad. I live on 5th Street. I'm the president of the Corky Row Neighborhood Association. I'm more the modern element of the Corky Row Club. If you may not remember, not too long ago, the city went ahead and gave us a $300,000 renovation for Griffin Park. It's helped revitalize the community. If you're not familiar also with how we're helping the Fall River Police not be so involved with us, our arrest records have been cut by 2/3. And regularly now we see very little crime activity on the levels we saw 7 years ago. That's a lot to do with the work that we do through the Corky Road Club and in the Griffin Park itself. We have youth programs all summer long. We do a community day. We do all kinds of stuff. And we have visions for the future, especially in the foul weather, being able to do youth work inside the Corky Road Club. So there is a future that we're relying upon this building and the club itself. As you heard, they mentioned about the commitment the club has to trying to improve the life and activities for the youth in Corky Road. And so if anything you want to talk about the present and the future, I'm here to answer your questions.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
Yeah, hi, my name is Bob Goffin from St. Anne's Shrine Preservation Society. And I just wanted to thank you for the grant that you've given us in previous years. And one of the things we have found is that once you start fixing the building and people seeing that you're taking care of it, you tend to be able to raise a lot more money. And that's what we're seeing now. Not too long ago, somebody passed away and they left us half their estate because they saw all the work that we were doing on the shrine. And the Providence College has come down and they've given us a pretty significant amount of money to fix the crypt where the Dominicans are buried. And we've put the if you come over the Braga Bridge at night, you can see St. Anne's with all the lights all lit up. It looks beautiful. And we've had people who are not from this area come over the Braga Bridge and have gone off gotten off the Braga Bridge and come to see us and to say, what is this? They always want to go upstairs, but we can't take them up there right now. So when we first started, Brad had told me, he said, when you first start raising money, that's the tough part. But once you do raise some money and you start putting the money and people see the improvements, then it becomes easier, and that's become really, really true. And I think the same will be true of Corky Road.
Okay, thank
If you have any questions.
Yeah, I see that you didn't get a letter from the Historic Commission.
Brad, a letter from the Historic Commission?
No, I didn't know we were supposed to get one. I assumed since we're listed on the City of Fall River's historic properties list, the state, and we're part of a National Register Historic District, that satisfied the requirement. But I didn't ask them. I imagine if they would have gotten one.
It's on the application. When is the next Historical Commission?
Well, we should have, it's still in advance, but we're not quite sure. It should be next Tuesday.
If you could contact them, we would allow you to get that done and put it in.
Sounds great.
It's just part of the paperwork that we like to see.
Makes sense to me.
Because I know you put in a letter from the Corky Road Neighborhood Association.
I did.
Now, is the club open daily, or?
It is not.
The heydays are?
The heydays are over. Yes, they are. So special events, community activities. Obviously, we just did our first clam boil of the year, which was very successful. And of course, the next big one is St. Patrick's Day.
Okay. So you're doing the roof, and then you actually had, you're picking up quite a bit of the kitchen, remodeling the inside?
There are plans now to be able to expand that kitchen and make it more available.
Okay. And you're looking for the roof. Did you have a...
And to answer your first question, to the extent that we begin to improve the building and have more and more activities there and generate more revenue, we hope to have the building open more and more often. That's our goal.
That's nice. That's good. I see you got the bid for the windows. Roof. Now, you folks sold the parking lot.
Correct.
Now, there's always that rumor that you guys are putting it up for sale.
Oh, the building itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no longer being considered.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is our commitment right now.
Because if that was the case, in 2 years, you decide you'd have to pay us back.
Correct.
So,
Absolutely.
you know, and there would be a deed restriction that would go with this property, so.
Absolutely.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, in an answer to that question,
Sure.
that's not being, this is Ray, that's not being considered the equity in the building is 90%. We own 90% of the building. We have a small mortgage, which we've been paying, and we don't see a problem with that going forward.
Good to hear.
We have discussed if that building is sold, we know the caveats on the restrictions where you would have to be paid back. So I'd just like to let your board know there's plenty of equity there to cover anything if that should ever happen in the near future, but it's not part of our plan.
Okay.
But we did have a plan that you probably heard about with the Veterans Kitchen, and it was a good plan, but it never moved forward, like some good plans never do. And we had to refocus and move forward, but during that time, the roof keeps leaking. Now, if you walk into the pub part, it's like walking back into history, because all the things that were there from the 1950s and so are still there, all the trophies, the pictures on a wall. And in the back hall, that was added into the 1960s, I believe, there's a historic mural on the back wall. I know many have been to the club, and our plan is we'd like to save that mural also. So that's the answer to the question about the sale of the building.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Joanne, we'll start with you first. Any questions? Nope, okay. Alex?
Hi.
Hi.
I saw that in your application, under the funding section, it said that the club has now committed $17,500 to Phase 1 work. Is that in addition to the funding requested amount, or is that for, I didn't know if you meant Phase 2 or not.
I know I'm the one sitting here, but I'm really here
Oh, yeah,
representing the Neighborhood
sorry,
Association.
Brad.
It's okay, Brad's right
That's-
there.
That's primarily for Phase 2, because we'd like to complete it as soon as we can, because then we could open the building up more often and generate more revenue.
Okay,
And the
so
more
that-
revenue we have, the more we could do things like provide scholarships to kids in the neighborhood, going to BCC or UMass Dartmouth, or, do more murals, get more involved in the neighborhood and really spruce the place up, which is what everybody would like to see happen.
Okay, so that's for Phase 2. Okay. Then I saw that, Mr. Paul, you were.
So again, the projections we have for revenue are based on all of our fundraisers over the next year. And so by the end of this year, we would, between our St. Patrick's Day event, our golf tournament, our clam bakes, our dues, and individual contributions that businesses and individuals are making, we plan to be able to set that aside by the end of the year. We really need to fix the roof as soon as possible, because the longer we wait, the more damage it does.
Okay. And then, Mr. Paul, I saw that you are going to be overseeing the project. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then I saw in the application that it acknowledged that the work had to meet the National Park Service's Secretary for Interior standards. But I didn't see the contractor acknowledge that in his bid. Would it be possible to get the contractor to acknowledge that the work can and will be done to meet those historic preservation standards?
I think we can get that. We can produce that for you if you'd like. How soon do you need that?
Before voting, so that would be the March meeting, but I mean, the sooner the better.
March 18th, yeah, or sooner.
Okay.
Just to make sure, because if it's found, down the line that the work didn't meet those standards, the club would have to pay the grant amount back, and, no one would want to see that.
And I just mentioned, many years ago, I worked for the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and I'm very familiar with the standards you're talking about. I also served on the California Preservation Foundation Board, and I currently serve on the Preservation Commission, or it's called San Francisco Heritage in San Francisco. So,
okay, excellent.
One of my great loves, and I'm very familiar with how you comply with those secretary standards.
All right, excellent. That's great to hear. And then I saw in your revenue projections, or I think it was your budget, the club's budget, that the rental hall event, the FY24 revenue source, I mean, that was only kind of earmarked for $1,000 to $2,000 a year, and I'm guessing that is limited in that way because of the roof. Would that be accurate?
Yes, and we do some rental, particularly for birthday parties, quinceanera parties, events, but it's hard if it's raining or there's a leak in the roof. It just discourages people from doing that. And we did a conservative estimate in that area, because I try to be conservative in all those estimates, so we know what we will be facing. But if we can get the roof fixed fairly soon, I think we can increase the amount of hall rentals as well.
All right, that's kind of what I thought. I just wanted to establish a correlation, because seeing that item, I thought that there was definitely room for improvement if the roof was fixed, is what I was guessing. So thank you. That's it. I'm all set.
Chris?
No, everybody's hit on my questions already, so.
The only thing I would like to ask is, in this quote here, it shows replacing a front window, and
Yeah.
is that going to remain as original when it's completed? Or is you know?
We're gonna replace it with a similar window to meet the Secretary of Interior standards. That window is pretty much shot. It's been there for a long time and it's been corroded.
Right. And if you're going to attend the Historic Commission meeting, I would probably bring that up. We have, through the CPC, there have been drawings and a document developed so that it would give you a little bit of resources to research the window and its application.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess that's it then. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Okay, see ya, bye.
Thank you.
Let's see. Next is the Forward School Building. It's the side patio railing, and then you can take whichever one. Excuse me.
You might want to call, excuse me, Ray, you might want to call Carrie at the planning department.
Gary, fine.
Find out when the next historic commission meeting is going to be. It should be Tuesday, but it's not an agenda yet, so.
Yes.
I think it might be
Yeah,
pushed
that's what I
off.
have.
So have her call you so you know.
That,
And it's imperative that you get that letter.
see if it'll wake up. Yeah, it was. I don't know why. It's sleepy.
I like the presentations. It makes it nicer, and then everybody else can see it too.
Computer's playing games. Sorry.
Well, we can start with the introductions.
Yeah.
Sure. Ken Pacheco, Chief Operating Officer for River Public Schools.
And I'm Andrew Barkley with RGB Architects, and been working with Ken on the school administration building. And I don't know why. There it goes. I put together a quick PowerPoint that I was hoping to share, but it's
So Ken, real quick, did you get the split minis put in already?
So we haven't, we have 2 put in so far. We haven't done the whole building, but we do have 2 started in the building. And the plan is probably from now until August, we'll be doing the
The air
splits.
conditioners wouldn't be going back in the windows?
No air conditioners will be going back in those windows, absolutely
All
not.
right.
No, absolutely not.
When would it be appropriate for us to take a look at the sample windows that are in there?
So I have a sample window that,
Yeah.
we actually had a window that the exterior wasn't what we wanted.
Okay.
We sent that one back. So we had a local vendor, Horner, develop the window we wanted with the outside finish that we wanted. That window has just arrived.
Okay.
And we will hopefully have that window at the building within the next week, I would say. Installed, I'm not quite sure. It's a first floor installation.
Mm-hmm.
It's in our new main entrance. The hope is that we have a contract already lined up, so they will be ready as soon as the window hits to get that installed. I'm not quite sure, though. The window will be at our site. I'm just not sure it'll be installed in time for your decision. That's the only concern.
Okay.
Does it meet secretary standards?
It does, yeah.
Would you notify John when the window comes in?
Absolutely.
And then we could probably go take a look and see what it's
Absolutely.
made of, its construction.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Take a photo.
Yeah, we can take a photo and send it over. We also have, in the packet is the design of that window, of actually all the windows, and the specs for each of the windows. We're coming, we're getting there.
It's trying. I don't know what's going on, but it's not showing up. There we go.
Oh, there it is.
Sorry. I had it up, and then the computer shut off. Decided to go to sleep on me, I guess. All right. Yeah. There it is. No. Why is it? No. All right. Wow, okay. Why is it doing that? It's asking me. Hello? Well, that's not right either, but come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cable's in, it just seems to be kicking out, and I don't know why, but
So are you seeing what we're seeing?
Yeah, we're seeing the whole
seeing
thing
it.
up there.
Behind,
Okay.
behind you, we're seeing it, so.
Okay.
all right, let's see. It should just go, well, I can go right through this. It should, may not be pretty, not presentation, but anyways, all right, sorry. So, just real quickly, want to go through the school, sort of scenario that the process we've been through. Again, the building's at 417, Rock Street. It's not working. It actually was a single-family home, and it's an original construction in 1900 for William Brayton, but then school's been taken over and been used at the public school central administration now for a number of years. 3-story masonry building, built in the style of the colonial revival. I'm sure you all are aware of where it sits, but it's right behind the historic commission building. We've gone through a whole process of looking at the windows for all around, for demolition and then replacement, matching the profile, the mutton width, basically meeting the Secretary of Interior standards for replacement of the windows. They are the original windows that are in the building, and yet the renovation is not going to do anything to change the or the look or the style. And they're actually a wooden window with an aluminum clad veneer on them, so they are actually very should last, I don't know, another 80 years or more. I would hope. We've gone through the process of sorry, I can't see that, but categorizing all the windows, defining the windows and the doors, and we've also found in the basement a number of the wooden shutters. So we'd like to include that into the project to replace the windows and then potentially salvage the hardware and put the original type of wood shutters back to really all the way around the building at all floor levels. And we have some, we sort of subdivided some of the work as alternates, the way it's broken out, but there's some iron Juliet balconies that we'd like to restore. They're not in bad shape other than they need to be, say, sandblasted and repainted. And then there's an additional ad in terms of a wooden balustrade on the end of the porch that's really quite beautiful, that we're looking to, it's actually gone too far where it can't be salvaged, but it can be emulated or copied. And Ken's even we're trying to get the high school students in the carpentry shop to help in taking measurements and fabricating new components to match what's there in the existing.
So Diamond has already agreed on that portion.
Yeah.
It's been to the school committee. They are going to recreate the baluster, the rail, and hopefully even do the install if it hits in the right time of the year, which would be really nice, a nice touch to what we're doing. And the hope is that when we finish that piece, we will take those rail and send that over to the school to be refinished and then installed also. So the process, the school department is also doing some other investments in the building. Getting rid of the window air conditioners is one big piece for us. And also, we are going to paint the upper section
Trees,
of the building,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And that should happen this summer. No matter what else we do, that's on the docket to be done this summer, and then some other work on the interior of the building. The building is home for the superintendent of schools, all of her senior staff, and probably about 15 support staff within that building. 25 to 30 people make their home there just about every day. Not the school year, but just about every day as an administration office, and it does see an awful lot of visitors from out of town. The Department of Ed is always in and out of our building, and they're always just at awe with the stairwell and the different portions of that building. They leave there and they're just looking around the conference room downstairs. Everything about the building is very much appreciated by those who appreciate that kind of building, and the amount of work it took to put that to put it together originally. But what we're trying to do is get as much of that building back to pristine condition that we possibly can within the confines. Unfortunately, that building doesn't lend itself on our side to any kind of education money. Education money needs to have some students around, and we just can't put a couple there just for show. We really have to actually turn it into an educational building, and that's not what it's designed for. It's gifted as the administration building in 1950 to the district, and it will return to its rightful owner if we don't use it for that. And the building can't be sold, or it has restrictions. So the goal is to keep moving forward. As I sit here, my error last year put us behind a whole year, and I've guarded this with my life. But we're going to do. The school department's committed to doing this project, and whatever help we can get, we would appreciate. It's not we're not going to walk away and not do anything, no matter what happens. But whatever help we can get, we'll move the project forward to hopefully to a fruition. And I will definitely, whatever I can to get that, at least a photo of the window as soon as we pick it up and have it in our building. And then, with any luck, the contractor's a local contractor, and she'll be ready to install that as soon as we get it.
Okay. The other question I had on looking at the budget, personnel 30,000. What is?
So we're gonna do all of the demo work, completely. I would say that we're going to probably do the interior carpentry on the windows. So we're looking for someone to install the windows in place. We have 4 carpenters on staff that will probably do whatever they can in this entire project to move it forward. So that number, I'm gonna say would fluctuate, but some of that number would be just the hauling away. We're trying to let the contractor that we hired just install windows to keep that cost down.
Yeah.
And then we will do as much as we possibly can in-house with the cleanup, the demo, and so on.
Well, you know, we're in a little bit of funding this year, we didn't get that. Now, if we were not to fund the 30, you could still do the project with
We
the
would,
construction
yes.
and,
Absolutely.
okay, all right. We're just looking to save a little, help you out, help us out, you know? Then we already went over the windows, so my questions are fine. We'll start with Joanne. Any questions? Okay. Alex?
No questions. Remember the presentation well from last year. Happy for the updates and the continued effort.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Chris?
I'm good.
The only question is to both of you, is this additional spindles and railing that you were talking about that's got to be repaired in addition to the porch?
This is the porch.
This
Well,
is-
Oh,
it
it is the porch.
So it's the
project.
front, it's the Rock Street, about the patio, as we call it, the Rock Street patio.
Right,
And then the
because
front
that's another
entrance.
project
Wrought
here.
iron.
That's another project here, so that's the
Yeah.
one that we were talking about, that Diamond is involved in.
Okay, you were talking about the second project?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I was a little
Exactly.
confused
Yeah, I
because
went
we
over
were.
too fast.
Yeah, we just shifted gears too quickly. Okay, gotcha.
Could you actually just, because we have it in front of us, could you just kind of differentiate the two and the amounts for the public that are watching?
So if I'm not mistaken, memory, I don't have it, yes, I can find it, one second, I have it.
And getting Diamond involved in this is, this is a 2- and 3-fold advantage because we're using the Diamond students. We're giving them hands-on experience with an older
Ken, I got it right here
structure.
if you want me to just.
Yeah, so the separation is 60,000 for the patio and front entrance. So the front entrance is basically a lead abatement project, and then, repainting, and then the railings will be
Why is
replaced,
it doing that?
or refinished, I should say, not replaced. And then the window project is 260,
Okay.
which would include,
On the back porch, does that include the door?
There's a wooden door. The wooden doors were put in as an alternate. They're side doors under the window project. But the front entry and the wooden rail, guardrail, that's the 60,000, the separate project.
Okay.
right.
So, yeah.
So the main entrance
Right. And I'm
is
sorry,
covered,
it's
the
not coming
side
up, but-
entrance
Yeah.
will be an alternate. I don't believe that we're going to do all of this and not change that door that goes out to the patio,
Okay.
but it wasn't included in the original
All right.
number, right?
And on the ballards, the spindles, the Diamond's gonna turn those also
As
for the
far as
ones
I
that
know,
have
they
to be?
are.
Yeah.
They're looking, I think they've identified the species.
Mhm.
And I think that they are, what I didn't do is, I didn't want them, again, because I try to follow the rules, except for my mistake last time. But I try to follow the rules. I don't want to have them start working on stuff so that it's done ahead of time. I also want to be able to provide the school with the material. And I don't want to, again, don't want to do that because it's not a reimbursable kind of thing. So to keep it on the up and up, we're trying to, they've already practiced it on another piece of lumber, that they know they can do it. It's whether or not, when we're ready, they'll do that purchase and
Good,
and we'll do
that's
that.
good experience and a.
They're also working on the iron, the wrought iron rail on
Okay.
the outside, which has nothing to do with this committee, but that's gonna be replaced, we'll put that.
And they're gonna weld and build the wrought iron railing?
Yes.
That's
Oh,
actually
great,
your
great
fence
job.
line.
Yeah, my
That
fence-
used to be there.
The fence that used to be there,
Used to be there. That's
they're
really
gonna
cool.
replace. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's gonna look amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's some granite work that we've salvaged from the Watson School, from the Healy School, and one other school that were demolished. We went on the property after the fact, that nobody wanted this, but we took a bunch of granite that we think we can trace the property the way it's traced in the front of the building on the Rock Street and half of Walnut. We still have half of Walnut and High Street that we need to trace the property under the fence. So that's, I think we have enough material to do that. So we're gonna do the granite piece in-house with our labor, and then the fence diamond will work with us. And we do have some columns for the driveway that came from the Healy School, so.
Nice, nice.
That's great.
Good.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what would be great is if Diamond does get involved and they're able to do, some of the kids get the hands-on on historic preservation, if maybe a couple of those kids go on and decide, hey, I want to specialize in this, and then we have our own little local historic
Absolutely.
preservationist, that would be great.
We will, as we do with most of our stuff, we will have a teaching moment, so to speak, with the kids, as far as both Diamond and the Durfee Construction Craft Laborers Program are gonna install that granite on the outside. They've
Yeah.
done some work for us with granite. Not that we have a few pieces, but we have a few pieces of granite. And they installed it at the Tansy School to pull back a piece of property that was starting to dip down into our property. So there's been quite a bit of work with the students. So I think that this project will be nice with the two schools working together. It'll be really
Nice.
a good experience. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I hate it when I have technical difficulty. Oh, better. Sorry. Yeah, the whole wood rail is actually pretty interesting because it has these wooden piers or pylons, and then the rail at the bottom of the top rail. And then I was trying to find something that could copy them, and I'm like, no, they're short, they're really
Chunky,
unique.
chunky
Yeah.
units, yeah. They've got to be turned,
Right.
yeah.
And you can't go find those pieces anymore. It's skill, right?
Yeah,
And then-
right.
No, good.
All right.
The whole unit.
Well,
the
the
whole
next project
application.
is the Forward Children's
I don't know if
Museum.
you want to.
They're looking for $385,420 for water repair. Let's see, stop the water infiltration, locations in the building too, and upgrade the window casings, trim, and roof drains and gutters associated with the area. And this is located on North Main Street. State where your name and
Tammy Mutino. I am the facility superintendent for Bristol County.
Again, I'm Andrew Barkley with RGB Architects, assisting Bristol County Commissioners on these projects.
So our project is for what now houses the Fall River Children's Museum. It is the former Superior Courthouse on Main Street. We lease it out to the Children's Museum. So this phase, we've decided to phase our project at your request. And I changed up our application request a little bit, took out all our interior stuff as you requested as well, and focused this time more so on the roof, which we had, someone take a look at. So this phase one now is, the focus will be on the immediate need for roof repairs. There's, more than where we're starting, but we're gonna start with the 3 known, worst areas of water filtration and restoration. And in addition to that, we'd like to also move down into the mortar joints, that are degraded or missing, window case trimmings where the joints meet the stone, some new copper flashing, slate, and masonry. And I believe we're also we also intend to include some roof drains and gutters if we could, if we can get our project, to fall below the roof.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's basically falling right up on Tammy's, the building built in 1889, and beautiful, pretty impressive, of course, and a real landmark building in Fall River, and it just needs some repair, especially some of the high roof conditions. Slate roofs held really well for 150 plus years, but and the copper in many cases as well, but it's just showing age and the effects of time and weathering, and so that's where we are, really trying to stabilize the exterior. Look at repairs for flashing, copper roof repair, some slate repair, and then some tuck pointing and some masonry stonework in limited or kind of localized areas that you can just visually see that is contributing to actually some water, allowing some moisture to come into the building, actually into the walls, and then it makes its way into the interior of the building. So kind of a fascinating history. Doing some research on this. The original building was cost $180,000. That's fantastic, right? I wish it costs that now, but that's in 1889 dollars. But so again, beautiful building, needs some exterior repair, but we're really focusing on the roof. Had some contractors come and look at it and see the condition. Whoop, up on top. Hopefully you can see some of those, but missing parts of gutters, missing parts of flashing or open flashing. Significant, it's just damage over time, and so it needs some repair. We did have some, I think, in your application you have some drone shots of it to really see the sort of the magnitude of the roof, but it's and it's actually really beautiful too, in that it's completely around the building. It has all the same level of detail or ornament and embellishment to it. So, but really, this request is for, like we said, copper roof repair, some localized masonry, and we didn't get into the windows yet.
No. We'll start at the roof.
Yes, start at the roof. Keep it secure, stabilize it. It's a contributing piece, significant piece of architecture for Fall River. It's actually been a civic building, even though it was constructed in 1890, but now it's even used as a museum for the children's. That's used every day. Yeah. And then your package, right, in your package, the phase one part is sort of to the front side, what's marked as the blue. In that, we will of course follow historic.
Should be the last page.
Protocols for that. And Bristol County has, how many? You have 7 or 8 buildings that they're.
Bristol County owns 8 buildings, 7 of which are historical.
Yeah. So they're really looking that.
And we have projects going on at 5 of the 7.
Right.
Right now. So this would be 6 of the 7 if we can get any funding for it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I see you got your letter of support from the Historical Society, Historic Commission. Then I see you got a letter from Paul Kitchen, the chairman of the Bristol County Commissioners, full support for the project. My question here, you have it broken down where it says roof, slate, gutter, copper, and flashing repair, 195,882. That takes care of the roof?
Yes, for the first phase.
Yeah.
So the masonry, you could get away without doing that if we only had to fund?
Yeah, that's what we would do. We'd do the roof first, and our second priority would be the masonry that is listed. We'd just put that off, until we can figure out some more funding.
You
but-
figure the best thing would be to button up the building so it doesn't leak and then,
Correct.
you know,
Start somewhere,
Yeah.
since it's been neglected for so long.
so this would be, phase one would just be, that's,
So we're aiming for,
is that over the Children's Museum?
yes.
Yes,
So we're
yeah.
looking at the southwest
Southwest,
corner
yeah.
and the west side,
Right,
right?
right.
Front, which is the
Yep,
front.
southwest portion.
Because that is also the portion that is affecting the interior as well, especially like the masonry piece.
All right. And that's all Secretary of Standards you'd be following?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Oh, that's why, I was looking at it upside down. This is North Main Street where the green is.
Yes, it's.
Okay, because I'm saying, no, that looks like the part over the registry, but no, yeah.
This one.
I didn't put that picture in, right. So, yeah, it's kind of tricky because the registry of deeds is to the north side.
So, yeah, so okay, now it makes more sense.
Have you looked into the slate? Have you looked into different choices that the state lets you do now?
Of types of slate or
Yeah.
material? No, I don't know. I mean, in terms of replacement?
Yeah, because they have, I guess,
Composites.
composite.
Oh, yes,
Looks
yes.
like a slate.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I don't know if that historically would be acceptable.
It is.
Yeah.
It is?
There
It
are
is?
some,
Yeah.
there are some types that are
Okay.
acceptable.
Cool.
There's some that you would look at them, and you would
Yeah.
never know that they weren't slate.
No.
And they're lighter. They're actually lighter on the roof, so it doesn't put as much pressure
Yeah.
on the
But
beams and stuff.
Overall, the roof is in generally good condition though, so you
Yeah.
might not want to start mixing and matching.
Yeah, no, but if it,
Well, if you were
know.
gonna do the whole roof, but eventually, but, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that had been accepted. I'm on another historic review commission. I've been a commissioner for 12 years, and we're always saying composites aren't allowed, and, but I'm aware of them. I've seen them, and they
Yeah.
are really pretty convincing.
They're in the Fall River Fire Museum.
Really? Okay.
Oh, they did end up using that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I know they were in the process of looking at that when I was still.
I guess it might be different when, considering it might take you a few years to get
Yeah.
the end result. I don't know how different that would look, so,
Yeah, because that's a much smaller roof.
yeah.
Through the CPC here, there was monies funded to have a study done and a booklet put together, and it shows a lot of various composites that can be, utilized. So it might be something you want to look at.
Sure.
It's being used in many, many cities, and it is approved.
So is
Okay.
your study available
Yeah.
online?
It is online.
Yeah, it's on
your
Yes,
website?
yes.
It's on the CPC and the Historical
Yeah,
Commission,
correct.
right?
Yes.
You go on our site, it'll,
It's the
Fall River.
guidelines,
It's the-
preservation guidelines.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I was looking at the
Yeah.
website that
Yeah.
I'll go
This should
look.
be under resources,
Resources.
preservation,
Yeah.
design guidelines.
Okay.
yes.
That's
Uh,
nice. All right.
Joanne, any questions? Nope, okay. Alex?
Nope, no
Um,
questions.
Could you describe the impact on museum operations from the leakage? I think you said it was the affected area.
The masonry piece.
Yeah, so the masonry, what would, in studying actually started looking at the interior walls, all the plaster, we know it's this heavy granite block with a masonry and backup. What's happening with the joints and any type of water infiltration into the wall, because it's a solid bearing wall, it'll absorb water, and then it will, if you try and cool it or air condition it, which through the window units, it actually makes it worse, because now you're dehumidifying, you're actually pulling water into the building. So if it's an active leak, they can deal with it, but the way the older building was set up is that it would take some water, and then freeze and thaw, it would transition. The moisture would be allowed to dry in the summer and then maybe take on in the fall. And what's happening now, it seems like we're getting the windows leaking and the flashing leaking and some of the joints that have the mortar's fallen out. So we're getting pretty gross water into the wall cavity, and then the wall cavity is being pulled into the plaster, and the plaster absorbs that. The paint on the inside starts to bubble or spall, and So we have wood rot on the wood, but we're getting wood rot on the lath, and then the plaster's starting to break down because of that efflorescence or the moisture drive back and forth over a number of years that it's getting wet. So if you can keep it dry and stabilize it, it won't continue to get bad. But that's kind of where we are inside.
And you can see some of that interior damage in these pictures that I X'd out from my first phase of the application.
And then you mentioned a commitment from Bristol County Commissioners to provide, funding and stuff for maintenance. Could you just detail what that might be or is?
So we have custodial staff that are interchangeable throughout our buildings. So I have 14 staff members, and they're all they're very handy in one way, shape, or form. I have one or a couple actually, that are very good at carpentry. They're all good at maintenance, and the county does keep up with as far as like electrical, plumbing, HVAC as much as we can. So we would definitely keep up with.
And last question, has there been any past recent projects done by the commissioners on the building in Fall River, this particular building?
On this particular one?
Like what, maybe
Not to my knowledge.
So not in a while?
Yeah,
Okay.
it has to have been a while, because I've only been in position for 10 months now.
Mm-hmm.
So I have something going on all those other buildings that I've gotten in place, in the 10 months that I'm here. So I just plan on moving forward, as much as I can while I'm around.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I think just to contribute to that, Tammy wouldn't know, I don't either, but the exact date, but there's an attempt to provide HVAC to the building, and so there's big
Right, which
cooling.
I think this committee funded that many
Yeah.
split
HVAC,
project
yeah.
for the museum. The
For the
museum
museum.
came
Yeah.
for them themselves for that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Thanks. That's it for me.
I'm good.
Now, just the county budget, is it similar to the city budget when it comes to putting maintenance money in the budget for
I
keeping up
couldn't,
with buildings, or is it?
I couldn't answer that because I am not
You're not
privy
in
to
that
any of
process?
the financial information.
You're
They
just-
have their own financial people. I just strictly do the maintaining the buildings and custodial staff.
Are you given like a capital reserve budget for
I am
projects?
not given a budget.
Okay, thank you. That's insightful.
She's in charge but has no control
Yeah, so I just
of the money, yeah.
I just go with the flow, do what I have to do, and present it to the commission, as I come up with projects or, their wants and needs. So right now, they're, trying to utilize ARPA funds as much as they can, which all have to be committed this year. So when I came on, they pretty much already had everything kind of earmarked for the little bit that they have. Their budget is nowhere near what a city budget's like. That I can tell you.
Okay.
It's important to maybe get an idea, if it has working on these budget requests, do you have a fixed budget for maintenance on a building like that? They say, look, you've got 50,000 to continue maintenance on this
like
building.
I said, I cannot say for sure. I can assume that there is, because as I am, purchasing supplies or needs for each building I do know has its own budget. How they budget that out, I couldn't tell you. But
Is there
there are
any way,
line items evidently in there.
is there any way of getting that documentation to us, just so we could look and see what kind of sustaining
I can
maintenance is involved?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been provided it, but
Technically.
if you're asking, I'll ask
Yeah.
on your behalf. Sure.
Be nice to know,
Maybe then
I
you'll
agree.
finally know.
Yeah,
Right.
it would help, yeah,
Kind
but,
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do know, yeah, so I know there is budgets for supplies. I don't know how they budget out maintenance. throughout the counties, because they have all of Bristol County, you know, that they handle all the budgets for the county, not just like for their buildings. But, yeah, I'd be more than happy to ask.
Because, I mean, this would be our second project for the building, so it would be nice to know that it's being continued and maintained and
So when you say second, are you referring to the Children's Museum?
Children's Museum, yeah.
Because when the Children's Museum came before you, from my understanding, that's strictly Children's Museum. They came as a nonprofit,
Yeah.
not as a
Bristol
county
Right.
representative.
But we
So
still
this is-
consider it in the same building, so,
Okay,
you know.
all right. I would consider it the first county project.
Well, we will consider
If
that too.
that is a
We just
correct.
want to make sure our
And I just
investment
wanna
going into
keep
the building
moving,
is.
you know, and moving forward with more county projects.
Okay. Well, I don't have any further. Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
folks.
Okay.
Thanks for the adjustments.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Do you need any more? I have a full box of these.
Any new business?
Thank you, Andrew.
I would-
If you want to
Oh,
maybe
yeah,
just
Tonight.
explain the next meeting for the public.
Oh, you
yeah,
want
that's
a good idea.
Our next meeting is
But I'll take it.
February 12th, which will be deliberation, which mainly means we sit down and we go over the 11 projects we just listened to, and any questions we might have, how we feel about it, something might be missing in this package that gets filled in. That's what we'll be discussing on Monday. Then if you are further as we go, March 18th will be our voting. So a lot of our information will come from deliberation to help us determine our voting on March 18th. Anything else?
Oh, and voting is done in a scoring system.
Yeah.
Which we'll explain.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Roll call. Start with Zoom.
Joanne Bentley, yes?
Alexander Silva, yes?
Kristen Cantara Oliveri, yes.
John Brandt, yes?
Rick Mancini, yes.
And that's a wrap.